Hello, good morning, and welcome to NewsFile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on NewsFile, we put Ghana first. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Ayenini. Now, this week, you heard a story somewhere in Prestia-Huni Valley District that the Minister of Lands, Natural Resources, in a convoy with police and soldiers, drove past galamsees. They were mining right in front of them, but they were not bothered. Not even when journalists pointed it out to them that what they were doing was wrong. They were bold enough to tell the journalists that they don't fear the army. So they continued their work. We'll talk about galamsey, and we have the experts right here to tell us the impact on our water resources. Also, we continue with the Auditor General's report on Get Fund. And as you may recall, the Auditor General found that out of 3,112 beneficiaries that were awarded scholarships, 2,217 were unlawfully granted the scholarship to study abroad. The public body in Ghana mandated to run foreign scholarship scheme is the Scholarship Secretariat. And the Auditor General says it was sidelined. Since 2009, that job had been unlawfully taken away from it. The Auditor General says Get Fund administers scholarships, local and foreign, even though it did not have the mandate to do so. The amount of money spent on foreign scholarships could have paid for many more Ghanaians to gain tertiary level education as intended by the law. Very disturbing is the fact that gifted but needy students ended up borrowing from the Students' Loan Scheme or elsewhere, while officials who are highly placed in society took the scholarships. We will also tell you the story of a Ghanaian citizen who deserved Get Fund scholarship, but never had one. We'll tell you a chilling story on the show. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here's my take. I title it, Top Lawmakers at Get Fund for Constitution Studies. A favorite English jurist, Lord Denning, cautions that, quote, silence is not an option when things are ill done, unquote. It shouldn't be difficult to tell Speaker of Parliament that it was a serious gaffe, threatening to withdraw accreditation if journalists did not obey his directives on how they should conduct their profession in the House. It is equally easy to tell managers of Get Fund that they do not have power to grant any form of scholarship. And I do this next week. I shall point to the plain law and the expressio unis ex exclusio alterials rule manifest in it, prohibiting Get Fund from dealing with scholarships. The Speaker and leaders of the House who supported him are terribly wrong. Journalists do not go to the Legislative Assembly at his pleasure as his guests, as he told them and the world last week. Those helping him project this dangerous unconstitutionality must stop or get Fund scholarship for a minute's lecture at GJA or by phone call to Professor Audrey Gajepo, even though one of her first-year students can handle this job. Citizens by Articles 21 and 162 have both constitutional and fundamental human rights to information and to know through the media what their elected representatives do and what goes on in that house. Now, to say fundamental human rights is to say your birthrights. The Constitution only guarantees these rights. It does not give them. The preamble of the Constitution talks about, quote, natural and inalienable rights. That's exactly what they are. Again, the preamble notes that and re-emphasize in Article 1 that sovereignty resides in the people and that it is in their name and for their welfare that the powers of government are to be exercised. They elect the MPs, give them offices, homes, pay them, buy them cars, fuel them, and those who care to drive to that place to work. Then Article 162, while prohibiting censorship and any attempt to direct editorial discretion, mandates in a compelling fashion that the media must hold them, that's the MPs and Parliament, responsible and accountable to the people. First, never forget the people put you MPs in Parliament. The way to monitor how you exercise the power they have given you is through the media, without which, I mean a free media, there can be no democracy. Mr. Speaker, let them make their own editorial decisions covering opposition MPs. You, Professor of Political Science, know far better than I do that there is no meaning to this democracy without opposition. I skip portions and go to this very final part. The last thing we should ever encourage is any act that chips away the independence of a free and vibrant media. In 2011, the Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights reminded us that, quote, too many nations around the world know that, like democracy, freedom of the media and freedom of speech do not come naturally and cannot be taken for granted. They must be constantly justified, constantly reaffirmed, and constantly strengthened. In the law and the media in Ghana, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu finds it critical to stress that, quote, the need to uphold the freedom of speech and expression is considered fundamental to democratic governance and the operations of a democratic society. Such protection ensures the nurturing and growth of a market in ideas, which guarantees the free flow of information from the governors to the governed and vice versa. So my take is available on my joyonline.com. Go read it because there's a lot that I didn't read out this morning. My guest this morning, he's back and back with all his documents. Abdul Malik Kwekuba, co-editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Ben Yao Amponsa is executive secretary. Ampoma is executive secretary, Water Resources Commission. Thank you for making time to join us. Also here, Dr. Eric Odro Osai. He's chartered accountant, author, and governance expert. Thank you for making time, sir. Also here is Dr. Anthony Apia Dua. He's head, Groundwater Division, CSIR. Thank you for making time to join us, sir. And a warm welcome to you, Abdul Malik Kwekuba.
Thank you, my brother.
Right. So, this is how we start. We are dedicating our time to two issues, to deal with the Galamsey problem and to ask what the impact on our water resources will be. Although we have been told many times, it doesn't appear that we are listening. And then we will deal with the Get Fund issue. You may have also followed the Get Fund administrator has been speaking and impugning the audit. He will speak to us, but we also have someone who will tell us a story that you just can't miss. But before we do that, just very brief, just a minute each. Yesterday, 63rd Independence anniversary celebrations. There are many who are very excited, particularly about the fact that now we are rotating this activity to allow a lot more Ghanaians out there, outside of Accra, to catch it, you know, to feel it. What are your comments briefly about that? Yes, start with Dr. Dosai.
Thank you very much, Samson. Let me say good morning to your listeners and viewers. I think as a Ghanaian and a believer in decentralization, I'm very, very happy about what I'm seeing. But my challenge is sustainability. Because at the moment, it seems to me it is a government policy. But is it going to be sustained into the future? The other question I'm asking myself is, after Kumasi, where next? We should be able to document some of these things so that it will guide the processes. That notwithstanding, I think it is about one of the best things, and it should not be limited to the celebration of independence. We also have Farmers' Day and other national celebrations.
Right.
So I would suggest that we try to put all these things together and develop a legislative framework or some framework guidelines that would guide us. And then also it will help us to prepare in advance. Because after Kumasi, if we know the next stop point is in Sunyani, then they'll start preparing ahead of time.
Right.
Because it has a lot of economic benefits. It rekindles people's patriotism. There are a lot of people who may never see the president and how independence is even organized. There are some school children who may not have marched for the president to see them marching had it not been it's been organized on a rotational basis. So I think it's good. But let us do it well by sustaining it. And if we can sustain it, let us put proper guidelines and framework in place so we'll be able to sustain it into the future.
Great. But we may not exactly need a law because, like the UK, they don't have a constitution, but everything works. They don't have a written constitution, but everything works.
But you know, in a part of the world, it doesn't work like that. You can start a process and the government will come and then torpedo everything.
Okay, I get your point now. Yes. Okay, so Koko, what do you have to say about the celebration? Of course, there are some people too who are not too excited about mentioning Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in the same line with a whole lot of people.
I'm sure you are not seeking to provoke him on an ideological level. Look, we are 63 years old.
Right.
We've done very well. We could have done better. We've kept our national cohesion, stick to our unitary character, the Republican status. And fortunately for us, over a period, we've been able to embark on a journey of democratic consolidation,
right,
in order to, you know, give it a triangle: unitary nature of Ghana, Republican state, and democratic Ghana. So we're doing well if you compare ourselves to others who have become failed states. Of course, we could have done better because some of the Asian tigers we began with, and if you see where they are, in spite of the fact that they also had authoritarian and dictatorial regimes, there was some benefit with their dictatorship. We check list hours, it appears we didn't do well in that regard. And we've had 4 republics. Again, this one has lasted some 27 or so years. That too, I think we've done well. We've had challenges, limitations. This constitution is not a perfect one and all that. But look, we've committed ourselves to sustaining this 4th republic. That's a plus. Right. Nobody should underestimate
the president said it must count for something.
Yes.
Yeah, that we are together.
I'm fully in agreement with him. Even though, let's be honest, there are limitations out there, there are challenges out there, sometimes so irritating that you ask yourself whether it's worth being a Ghanaian. But nobody should just get desperate or frustrated. And then, of course, a rotational principle. I like it. It isn't as if independence celebrations and other national events weren't taking place in regional or district levels. They were. But the focus being where the president goes, the national one is being rotated.
Right.
So there's an extension, and that's very important. And I like the idea. It helps to grow or expand the ownership thing in terms of patriotism and cohesion. So that's a very good idea. Right. And I believe it would not be reversed. No subsequent administration will reverse it. Okay. It has caught up. Everybody is happy with it. Right. And it will move us. It's a momentum.
Great.
Let me just say, happy 63rd independence anniversary to the good and great people of Nkrumah's Ghana.
Right. Thank you very much. The good and great people of Nkrumah's Ghana. Right. So, Dr. Dia, what do you say? You can also celebrate the other aspect, where, for example, when it was taken to Tamale, you see it's an opportunity for the chiefs to also be you know, at a nice Durbar and to meet the president and all who matter in the country, and for people also to move away from Accra, who matter to move away from Accra and to travel and get the opportunity to see places and so on. So,
yeah, I think as he said, it's something that we should all be happy about. I think that once these things have started, if we are able to, as my big brother said, we are able to maintain it.
Should we maintain it?
We should maintain that. We should maintain that. You know, when you do something in one place for a long time, you get to a point everybody gets tired of it because you know what is going to happen, the same people. Of course, if you are doing it in Accra, the schools that are coming, even if you change it, they get to a point that the same people will be going.
Right.
And they themselves, you know, you get, you know, the kind of graph that comes in. So once we put it out there, now, like my brother said, if we know the timetable and we know where it's going, everybody will start. The schools that are going, they will start, you know, getting themselves ready. And the kids get excited about these things because, as Kweku was saying, you know, even though these things are happening every Independence Day, it's on a smaller scale. But if you know that now, you know, the president is coming there, the ministers, the member of parliament, everybody,
Baba Yara Sports Stadium was full to capacity. If they were doing the ordinary one, they would not even have gone there. They would have gone to Jackson's Park.
Exactly. You would have gone to a smaller place. But this one, the whole world is looking at you. You know, you have people even coming from outside the country. So everybody's excited about it. And because it's something that is happening once, it may come back in a long time, you have to do your best.
Right.
So, you know, when it happens like that, it means that we are going to get the best all the time. Because it goes to this region, they are knowing that this is our time, we have to beat these people. You know, it's a very healthy competition that will come through that. And I think that is an excellent idea. And we need to continue with that and get everybody involved because the country belongs to all of us. And all parts of the country is Ghana. You know, we are not talking about Accra, Kumasi. You know,
but what do you say? Does it also do what some may say, increase the patriotism in the people within the region that you take the celebration to?
Definitely. And you could see it from last year. The way Tamale, you know, people actually went into it.
Right.
It was pretty clear. And again, yesterday, you could see the enthusiasm.
There's economic activity.
Economic activity. But again, the key thing is the cultural diversity, the showcasing of the cultural diversity. If you look at the Tamale one, and then you look at the Kumasi one yesterday, you could see very clear the way we are showcasing our cultural diversity and making us move together as one. Of course, it presupposes then that the next time where it goes, we should also be looking at the cultural diversity in terms of
emphasize the culture of the place.
Precisely. That's what I think. And it was really pretty clear and quite exciting to see that.
Okay. So there is a certain agreement here unanimously voted for the rotation to be kept. So irrespective of whichever party comes to office, well, if you don't do it, then we'll take you on. It is good, so we just have to continue with it. All right, so now let's get to talk about the matter of Galamsey. And as I started in my introduction, in this week, and this is how the Ghana Report online reported what happened. It says, when illegal miners heard that the Lands and Natural Resources Minister's convoy was heading towards their forest reserve, they did not run away. They continued mining. The convoy, in addition to Minister Kweku Asoma-Treme, had technical directors and some soldiers. JoyNews' Latif Idris reported on Thursday the convoy passed right by illegal miners on the shoulders of the road that runs through the forest reserve in the Prisia-Huni Valley district. But to the left and to the right side of the road, the illegal miners continued unmoved in a bold testament of the state of the government's once praised fight against illegal mining. Not even the huge convoy of the minister scared them. They were there doing it with impunity, Latif Idris had said. So, Doc, what does this tell you about the fight?
Thank you very much, Samson. I think I'm getting disappointed because this is a fight that we must win. It is not about this political party or the other political party. It's about the interest of Ghanaians collectively. Water is water. The experts are here. There's a difference between potable water and safe water. And at the moment, we are losing on all fronts. So I think that we've gotten to a point where, one, we should depoliticize the fight. And then two, we should tackle it head on. Ghanaians must wake up. Citizens must be properly educated for them to understand the implications so that they can start by standing up against them at the base. Well, it looks as if we are losing it. Look at the commentary you just read. It sends a signal that as a country, if we don't wake up, what is going to happen is that one day we may have to import water, drinking water, into this country. And that is not the best for us. So I think, one, we should depoliticize it. And two, I think the activities of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining should be properly decentralized. Because the action spot is in the towns and the communities. But the committee meets in Accra, take decisions for implementation out there, expecting DCEs to take charge. But the DCEs are not members of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. So I think they should decentralize it, and then we should take this fight seriously. I can understand the spirit of the president to fight it, but he can't be everywhere. That is why delegation and decentralization is important. So if his men and women are failing him, he should muster the courage to fire them. Fire 1, 2, 3 people, and people will sit up.
We are told, including by the Interministerial Committee, that the reality now is what you may find here. Now, the Ghana Reports.com continues by saying, the JoyNews reporter said, although the journalist saw the illegality, that the minister saw it, he says he could not say if the minister saw them, even though it was obvious to them. The minister, who was in another vehicle, kept driving on as the one transporting the journalist stopped to allow the reporters to speak with the galamseyers. We're told that because of the elections, impending elections, this is being used as blackmail. You can't touch us. You dare not. If you do, we'll punish you at the polls. That will be the reason the minister will see them and not blink.
I think it's rather unfortunate if that is really the reason. You know, because people should come to the realization that whether election or no elections, Ghana will survive. And so we've gotten to a point where they should put their political career on the line. Indeed, the president has told us that he's put his presidency on the line. If the person who is the chief executive of this country is saying he's put his presidency on the line, who are you, a minister, representing the president, saying that because of political ground? I think people are just hiding behind this politics thing to do all kinds of things. The president said he's put his presidency on the line. So people should be encouraged by that and go all out to fight the galamsey menace.
Kwaku, is this really possible? An MP was here with us a week ago, Afenyo King, and he said even the MPs for these particular areas, you know, have a certain uncertainty and are not too sure how they should approach it because they must win. And to drive these people away, some of them, this is all they know to have done. Is this going to work?
Well. See, you know, I have a certain policy. It is a policy that has timelines. I'm not speaking too much about the galamsey matter for good reasons. Because as we speak, you know I'm in court. I've been accused of being a galamseyer myself.
No, but one of those you took to court has, you know, begged you, apologize. We have read the apologies in the news. So
yeah,
that's...
but the bigger fish is still out there. And that is where
can there be a bigger fish than Eko Ewusi?
There's a bigger fish. You know I'm in court with Mr. Kennedy Japan.
Right.
And it's almost at the tail end.
Okay.
And quite a lot of the things that we've been saying earlier, we said all here, I've compiled some which are part of my evidence before the court. Indeed, my lawyer has strictly told me not to engage in any serious discussions that could have any implications. But I'll try as much as possible to avoid, stepping into the minefield of contempt. But I tell you, if you remember, there was a time here on this very table that I made an appeal to the president that if it was possible, he should take out the party elements from this anti-Galamsey fight. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, you did.
Because look, it's an entrenched subculture with a political dimension. And it didn't begin today. And we have enough evidence to show the complicity of political parties, political executives from the constituency, district, regional to national level. It's conk.
When you say we have enough evidence, who are you referring to?
Well, that's an interesting question. The New Crusading Guide and Tiger Eye put together. And that investigation began August 2016. You see, what hurts me most is that some of the evidence at our disposal are known to the Ghana police. They have them on record. They have party executives, constituency executives, who they themselves busted during some of their raids. They have their statements, audio and video, from 2016 to now. You ask yourself what's going on. So it's a very difficult thing. Now it appears that if you want to fight Galamsey, then you are labeled a Galamseyer. As a way of neutralizing.
And the evidence that Kweku is talking for the second time that he's repeating it here, may I also repeat for the second time that I have seen the body of evidence, incontrovertible.
Right. So to be honest, if there's a continued party political involvement in any campaign to fight Galamsey, take it from me, it's not going to work. I am not saying it's only the party elements that are involved. After all, we had the Minerals Commission there, Forestry Commission there, we had the Ministry of Energy, all of them there, yet Galamsey was going on. Right. So the institutional element too is important. But when you have a president who dedicates and commits himself to that campaign, and yet he's hugely challenged in terms of implementation, I'm saying the party element, get them out quickly.
Okay, so besides getting the party elements out, which is your major, appeal that you are repeating, what else should be done? The removal of the military, we understand. Some have used that to say it's an admission of the failure, but you may know better than that this is a phasing out process.
Yeah, it's a phasing out process. And indeed, they'll be establishing a rapid deployment force made up of military elements who will be called upon to intervene when necessary. See, look, sometimes it's not easy to see some of these things. The military is a very delicate institution. Whilst we are not at war, so we should be able to call upon them to help in internal security and other things. When it becomes too protracted, and then also there are allegations and counter-allegations and all sorts of things, it has a certain tendency of undermining professionalism, loyalty, morale, and you are not careful, it becomes very difficult to manage. And all these things have been happening in the last 2-3 years. It's not easy. So I think the policy makers or decision makers were confronted with this challenge, and you have to do your intelligence estimate of what exactly is happening in the military. And don't forget, it's not the entirety of the armed forces personnel who are engaged in this. Those who have had opportunity to engage in it have also seen it as a gold mine. And when you have a situation where some military personnel are out there making money, getting some benefits, whereas the majority in the barracks are not getting, sometimes it creates internal friction. It's just like how June 4th came about. I'm sorry, it's not a digression. But you see, when you have soldiers who should be in uniform and do military duties, also doing civil duties, and benefiting from that, their colleagues who are entrenched in the barracks begin to see differences and then react differently, sometimes very negatively. So yes, the military will be removed, will be progressively removed from the front lines. They will stay within a rapid deployment force that will be called upon. Step by step, they intend doing something about it. But my brother, I'm being honest with you. This fight is not going to be an easy fight. The proof is here. Some progress has been made. I'm not one of those who says it's been a disaster completely. And I think when the experts come in, they will have to give us some details in terms of specificity. And no, I'm not in that situation. But honestly, generally, at this third year, the challenge has been huge. And I trace the source of the challenge from within. The interministerial committee, if I were the president, I'll reconstitute it. I know he doesn't like reshuffling. But you see, you got to reshuffle some because it's institutional representation. You know that, the interministerial. But the person's there. And I'm not for one moment saying any of them I know has taken anything. But I think they failed in a way. And if I were the president, I'll reshuffle them, bring any new elements in there, keep the institutional representation intact.
Okay.
I've restrained myself. There are a few things I want to say, but I've decided not to.
I see. Yeah. Right. Okay. So good to take your lawyer's advice.
Yeah, last point, please. Last point. You see this document that was launched by the this livelihood project appraisal. That thing. I think the ban, they lifted the ban on small scale, legal small scale mining.
Right.
The period when it was lifted is part of the problem. I'm not saying it should never have been lifted, but they should have known that in look, all the time, there was a very small line of distinction between the illegal and the legal. Even some of the legals, their practices were part of the problem. Even the major ones, they have practices, but they are easier to monitor and evaluate. So the very moment the ban was lifted and the introduction of the community mining thing came in, look, some of the party elements, and particularly because the party in government was the party that will have advantage in trying to mobilize their rank and file to have the benefits of this community mining. I don't think the process has been properly managed and policed. Because it's party, sometimes the vigilance is low. That is part of the problem we are having now. So it's now very difficult to draw the lines between the community mining projects, the legal small-scale mining, and then the illegal.
I see. Okay, so Dr.
The experts will educate us. Dr.
Dia, I've been reading your paper, and you look at, from an expert point of view, you look at the disturbance of the water bodies, and part of what you said was that there are still several illegal mining activities going on in pockets of Eastern, Ashanti, Central, Western, Northern, and the Upper East region. Even though there has been significant improvement in the quality of raw water in most of the water bodies that hitherto were of huge concern, there are still significant deterioration going on in parts of the Western, Ashanti, and Eastern regions in the Ankobra and Pra, Ofing and Brim basins. Most of the water bodies in the mining areas are still in poor state, indicating some level of pollution is still ongoing. And you did this paper 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Right. Where are we?
Thank you, Samson. I think maybe let me just make some little clarification. You talked about CSR. The CSR has 13 institutions.
Okay.
With the Water Research Institute.
Water Research Institute of the CSR.
Of the CSR. But generally, when CSR it comes to Galamsey, it always comes to water.
Okay.
And I have been the person who has been speaking for them. We have been going to the field.
So we have the right person to help us.
That's right. I also want to thank you for this opportunity and say hello to everybody here. I want to give a little bit of background because as an institution, we have been working, together with Water Commission as part of our mandate to monitor river bodies, monitor groundwater, monitor things as our routine work. So we've been doing these things for a long time now. And at a point, 2008, 9 there, some of the reports were showing that, we are having problems with, illegal mining. We all understand that mining has been with us for a long time.
Right.
Previously, they were there, but they were not in that scale because most of the locals were using, local materials, and they were not really having a lot of impact, even though it was still having some impact until we got to a point where we had some foreigners who brought in certain equipment. At the point, the first, report that came, and Ancobra, I think around 2010. And then we also had one in 2012. 2012, we did it on PRA, because if you look at all the basins that we have, the PRA is the biggest one. And then also, I have a map here from Geological Survey. It shows the mineral, deposits in Ghana, or where the minerals are. And then if you look at that map, all the gold deposits are within the southwestern, where, and also just to add to that, we have where the Ghana Institution of Geosciences. These are the people, and I happen to be a vice president of the Ghana Institution of Geosciences. So geoscientists also, we have the geologists, hydrogeologists, all the people that matter when it comes to geology and things. So we have also been looking at these things, and we have the gold is something they never called us Gold Coast for nothing. Gold is abundant in our country.
You said we have been mining it for over 500 years. That's what you said in the paper.
We have gold with us for a long time. The whites came here. I think one of the things that helped them to come around was the gold that they found here, and so we realized that the basins are also in the parts of where the gold is deposited. And the type of gold, mineralization, as the geologists will say, you need water, to treat that. And so they found these basins, the PRA, the Ancobra, the Tunnel. Okay, the biggest one is the PRA, which runs through Ashanti, Western, Eastern, Central region. When we talk about basin, normally we add the Brim, Ofeng, Anum, they are all part of the PRA. PRA is the bigger one. The Brim is a sub-basin. Ofeng is a sub-basin. Anum is a sub-basin. Okay, or that, they are all part of that.
What is the connection or the significance of these basins to water to Ghanaians?
Let me first explain why we talk about a basin. Okay, when you talk about a basin, what it means is that when water drops, all the water that we found on earth, even underground, comes from rainfall. It's a cycle. It goes in and out like that. When the water falls on the ground, it moves at a certain direction, depending on the topography and also where the water is. When the water falls in one basin, it doesn't go to the other basin under normal circumstances because of barriers and things. So, but it moves from one to the other. It has its head and then moves downstream. Okay, so when we talk about basin, it means that water that is in this one, if you allow it to move by itself, it doesn't go to the next one. It can go to a sub-basin. So all of them then, so the Brim will come, Anum will come, Ofeng will come, then they will meet together, and then they'll flow down and end up in the sea at Shaman.
Okay.
So that's why when you are moving along the Takoradi Road, when you get to Biposu, the bridge, you see the huge, that is getting to the end of the PRA.
Okay.
That goes down to Shaman. So all the trouble that is going up there ends up there. Okay. So we are saying that this area also houses where the gold is. And then with the gold, increase in gold prices, everybody wants the gold. Okay. But these things should be done by professionals. That's why we have mining people who come, people who have trained, But we also have local people who have also have training.
So these are our main sources of drinking water?
Main sources of drinking water. Okay. Because you have Ofane and Odan, they serve the Kumasi area and all that. When you come to Brim, all the people in the eastern region, Bunsu, Kade, all these people have their main source of water. Okay. The same way when it gets to Daboase, which is a part of the water treatment for western region. So these are our main source of water. So in the past, even though, as I said, these things have been going on, we never had issues with treatment plants having problems. You know, but it gets to a point that we realized that, I remember in the 2012 when we went to Daboase, it was so sad. We have a lot of pictures, you know, to show that the place where the water is supposed to, you know, where normally the treatment plant, they have an intake area, where they have a pump, and it takes the water from there, and then it treats that. The place was silted. Instead of water, it was sand. So what do they treat? Because once the thing moves down, it comes with the debris. So that's why we talk about stability. It's the sand and the clay in the water. So they will come and settle down. They will settle as these things goes on. Eventually, what will happen is that all the rivers will be silted. When we say silted, it means that the sand has formed under it. So if the water has to carry 50 gallons, it can't carry 50 gallons, maybe 5, because the whole down there is sand. So that's why we're talking about importing water, because your rivers are now silted. Where will the water? They all drain into the sea. And you know, taking water from sea is very expensive.
When Ghana Water gave us about 10 years intervals, did you say 20, 30, thereabout or so? Yeah. I think people felt that was too close. But we have also heard suggestions that
the way
may
things
be too far away, because
the way things
it might come too early than we think.
Exactly. Around 2012, 2010, 2012, when we did this thing, the situation was so bad, because at that time, the people were in the middle of the people with the Ashanfa, they were in the middle of the course of the water. So the water is flowing. They are sitting right there with all the things, doing whatever they are doing. Some of them have diverted the water because they needed water. We divert it, then they flow there because it's an alluvial go, so they need water to treat that. So they will divert it. And then you see the whole place. When you went to Konongo, the whole area, almost like the whole community was there. There was one excavator moving the things, people rushing in, taking sand, which contains these things, and selling. It was so bad. I remember that time when we held a press conference in the institute. We invited the military, the police, the prison, the presidency at that time. And we showed them the evidence. I have been to the previous government. I was with a deputy director general to the vice president office to show them the picture we have seen.
Yes, so
I remember he has claimed and said, how is this thing going on?
It was when I was reading your paper that I discovered that you have been giving us these warnings and cautions long before Ghana Water 2 years ago came and told us that we are likely to begin to import water. Exactly. So bring us to today. Where are we? What's the situation?
So, then it happened. So then all these things culminated. So when 2016, we tried to, I remember my brother Ben here, we tried to engage the government. We had a lot of meetings at the Flagstaff House, tried to explain to them, we invited the forestry and all these people to see the danger and how we need to do. But of course, I mean, at the election year, it's always difficult to get these things done. It couldn't be done. Then come 2017, a new government came, and then some of these things came up. The media said, look, they cannot continue. So when the media started pushing, then the government said, look, let's put a ban, because we don't know who is doing this, who is doing that. Let's put a ban on this. And then the ban was put there. So when the ban was put there, the media then started doing the education, going to the field, and we joined them. We went with them, we told the people what is happening. There are a lot of other implications. It's not only the water. There's a lot of health implications. Yeah. Food security, because the land is being degraded. Then they are adding a lot of chemicals to the land. So there are certain areas, you have cocoa farms, they will just clear it and do galamsey.
Last month we got an expert, Kwame Seydusapong. Yeah. He told us about the impact of the chemicals that they use to wash.
Yeah, exactly. So these days they mix with the soil.
There's even a latent impact. that we may never see now.
Because these are heavy metals.
Right.
Heavy metals. They bioaccumulation. They will get it, but they won't kill you today.
People's brains will be affected.
Exactly.
Abnormal,
the mercury
bets.
behavior. People, cognizant. People who don't kids, especially with the children who are affected greatly because then they cannot think well. You think that somebody is dumb, but because all these things are happening, so it has a lot of health implications. So apart from the water, it has a lot of health implications. So that's why we've been trying to educate the people and say, look, these things, this mercury, arsenic, and these things, they're not supposed to be in your body. But when they get there, they cannot come out. They will stay there and accumulate till you cannot, and then they affect your life. So all these things, even though people are doing it, there are other people who are also suffering for it. People have done tests in fruits, fish, with all these things inside because they grow from the soil which has been contaminated. So apart from the water, the soil there is even bad. Okay, so if you grow the same plants,
but the fish, we don't even have the fish because we are told that the aquatic life is killed as a result.
Exactly. And then there are different types of fish. Some of them will die members, some of them are strong. They will survive, but they will
the community which would have earlier relied on the fish as their main, productive thing, economy.
Exactly.
They have lost all of that.
2012, when we went prior, for example, there was nobody fishing. They said, we cannot fish here. 2018, when we went, they said,
so where are we now?
So after 2018,
how dire is the situation?
So when the ban came, it helped a lot. I mean, the graphs will show you. It will show clearly. 2017, up heritability, then everything came down because the initial ban 6 months, so everybody was waiting. September, they were waiting. So they were not, even though one or two very strong guys were going, most of them had stopped. Because when you go around, they come and complain, we don't have work to do, blah, 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 but we were trying to help them. The chiefs got to understand that, look, we cannot kill ourselves. So they stopped. So they're waiting for the thing to come back. So 2016, when they get to September, and then they said, we haven't done it. Let's increase the...
You mean 2018?
No, I'm talking about the ban time.
Okay, yes.
So
the ban had been lifted by 2018.
Yeah, so before it was lifted, so 2017 it was September extended to January, February.
Right.
So people waited. You could see from the results that then things were started. People then who couldn't wait more wanted to go back. So there were a few rivers which were around the brim area. The people, it was still going up a little bit. Then it calmed down almost a year. So 2018 then people were now whatever will happen because we have waited all this time.
So Dr. Bia, just hold on briefly for me. Let me come to Mr. Ampoma, and because there's an aspect that he brings in which is directly what you do at the Water Resources Commission. Initially, when the ban was in place, we got your report which showed that we were on the path of salvation. Then suddenly, we are getting, the indications that it's getting even worse. So help us understand, what are we doing to ourselves?
Right, thank you very much, Samson, for the opportunity. I'll start off by trying to give a picture of where we were in terms of data and information.
Okay.
And then also what we were doing, the results, and now where we are. Basically all based on data.
Right.
My colleague has really taken us through where we were in terms of the activities, so I won't go there.
All right.
We all know what activities are being done. Now, we monitor water quality and put out the results based on two, what we call indicators. We have what we call the water quality index. We take 10 parameters, including turbidity, nitrates, total suspended, whatever. Solids. They are solids. There are 10 in them. And for the purposes of information and education, we put all these things into a weighted over a figure of 100, and then we classify. So if it is 80 to 100, it means the quality of the water is very good. If it is between 50 to 80, it means it is fairly good. If it is below 50 and it's down to 25, then it's polluted. If it's below the 25, it means it's seriously or grossly polluted. So that is the way we put it in. Now, by 2016, we had 60% of our water bodies below 50 in terms of the water quality index. Okay, so it gives you a picture of where
below 50, but not
below
at 20, 60.
Below 50, yes.
But not at 20, where you say it's
I'm coming.
polluted and...
I'm coming.
It can't be. What is being today could be anything.
16 of those water bodies overall were critical. They were below the 25.
It's 16 of them.
Yes. Okay, because we have about 41 monitoring stations countrywide. And if 16 of them are below the 25, then you could imagine where we were.
These 16, were they the major ones?
The major ones. Okay, because they are basically the major ones. And of course, most of these 16, my guesstimate was that about 12 of them were within this area that we are talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about the southwestern system. Okay, the southwestern water system comprises the Pra, like Jia said, Ankobra, Tano, and Bia. Those are the key four. The Volta is another matter. Okay, so that is where we were. Now, another key indicator that we normally use, which is part of the 10, is the turbidity. Okay, turbidity, basically, like you described, for the layman, is how dirty the water is. But scientifically, it says we're looking at it how cloudy the water is. But for the layman, it's how dirty the water is. And the higher the value, the dirtier the water is. Okay. And for Ghana Water Company, the turbidity standard value should be less than 5. Okay. But generally, if it is up to 100, depending on the use of the water for which you want to put the water into use, 100, 150 is okay, and it could be treated in terms of the cost and then the chemicals that you want to put in. Now, if you look at the values, I'm now looking at turbidity. Okay, I'll just take a couple of them. Often at Adiambra, okay, 2016, it was 508. That is February. And then by February of 2017, it had gone up to 4,150. Okay. Now, when the ban activities came into place and all actions were being done, 2018, February came to 11.
What?
11.
Yeah.
From 4,000?
Yeah, it came to 11.
How does that happen?
Yeah. Because when you don't disturb the water,
it will clear.
Jesus
it will
Christ.
self-cleanse itself. Okay. Then February, by July, July it went up to 24. But that's okay.
I believe you leave this thing with us.
July 2018.
July 2018, it went to 24. Okay. No, it went to 31, sorry.
31.
31.
Okay, from 11.
Yeah, it went to 31. That's fine. Then February 2019, it went up to 64.
The ban has been lifted.
So then you begin to, see the trend.
Very interesting.
Then July 2019, it went up to 97. You see the trend.
Yeah, back.
Yeah.
Then February, just about 2 weeks ago, and then 328.
Oh.
So you see the trend. We're doing very well when the ban was in place, and even when some of the
Almost at the place before the ban.
Yeah. Okay, that is one. Now let's look at Achimda, which is on the Pra. 2016, 2016 February, 1,824. By February 2017, it was 3,822. Okay. Remember, February, the ban hadn't.
Yeah, it's not. It started
was
in
in
April.
place.
Mine was in April. April.
That's right.
When it came.
Then, February 2018, 261.
Okay.
July 2018, 109. February 2019, 104. July 2019, 184. It's going up.
Going up again.
And then February this year, 1,519.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's
see,
the trend.
So that is a trend. Yeah, I hope you get it. Yeah. So that is a trend. So we really did very well during that period. And like we are saying, for water, if you don't disturb it, it flows naturally. Seasonally, when it rains, turbidity will naturally go up because it gathers, you know. But that is fine, we know. And that is a range. But that's okay. But when you disturb it, in terms of these illegal activities, then you have the consequences as we are talking about.
My expectation was that once we had been able to seize the chamfans, those machines, in your write-up, I read how that's actually dangerous, and we see them. You know, once we seized in the thousands of them, whatever activity that went on should still not take us to where it was bad. But even though they have been seized, the ban is lifted for legal small scale. So you don't have the chamfans in the system. That's what we are supposed to know. Still, we are climbing back to where the turbidity was 400, is it 4,000 or 400?
Whatever.
Yes, and 3. Yeah,
the point is that, sorry, the point is that we are talking about illegal activities.
Right.
So we don't see them. So you don't even know the equipment they are using. That's the point. So we shouldn't assume that they are no longer using those kinds of equipments. We can't assume
It's only when you find them.
It's only when you find them. But you see, I want us to look at, we forget that we share most of our water bodies with our riparian countries. When we talk about riparian, we mean our neighbors that we have a common relationship with in terms of our waters.
Okay.
If you take Tano and Bia, we share with Côte d'Ivoire. And if you remember, I think in February 2017,
that's right.
They made a complaint to Ghana that we had polluted their waters, especially the Bia. And you see, the Bia serves as a water supply source.
Right, this kind of activity doesn't go on in their area. Why are they blaming Ghana?
I will explain.
I will explain. Why do you blame Burkina when there's flood?
I will explain. They have the Bia as one of their sources for a province. I think they call it Bia Nue or something like that. It's Bia Nue something, but that is the name of the province.
All right.
And at that time, they had seized water supply to their communities based on the quality, the turbidity of the water. Okay, and they had data to, as it were, support the case that the values were said that the activities were not from Côte d'Ivoire. Okay, and indeed they made a complaint. They came to Ghana, we sat down, we talked about it, and the data they had was not significantly different from what we had.
Okay.
Which, as it were, showed that our activities had actually contributed significantly to the situation out there. At that time, February 2017, Bia at Dadieso, the turbidity value, and that is about the highest so far 9,240.
9,000. That's serious.
That was February 2017.
Before the ban.
Before the ban. So we even sat down, we came out with some kind of protocols as to how to address the situation, both countries. But the key action was that we needed to address it in Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay, there were others that had to do with education, sensitization of the public, and things like that, and having been joint monitoring between us. When the ban came on, February 2018, 19.
From 9,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, how?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And Kofi, Kweku, sorry. If, of course, I didn't bring the picture. You could see clear. You could see clearly that you could even see through
Transparency.
how transparent, and it shows
How far you can go.
how far you
Like
can go.
fog.
You could see
How
it.
far you can see
Yeah,
on the
it's
road.
how far you can see.
So-
You could see
so
it.
you can
So
put
clear.
a disc. You have a machine.
Yeah.
So you put a disc and
Yeah.
you see how far you can
can
see,
see.
until you cannot see.
Exactly.
It's very, very.
July 2018, it was 41, which was okay. February 2019, 26, still okay. July 2019, 98, still okay.
It's going up.
Now it's 2,390.
Is it as of March or February?
This February. 2020 is all February figures. You see, my worry, and that should be the concern, that we should be thinking of the transboundary, repercussions
Protocols. Yeah, protocols.
in terms of our activities.
We should think of both, not just.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We shouldn't
But
also.
if you want to spoil your thing, they don't want to.
You get it. So it's something that we should need to bring out for the public to understand that whatever activities that we do, we are not affecting only ourselves, but our neighbors. Okay. So that is the situation with respect to.
Vice versa. What they do there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you
In
see,
terms
for,
of-
yeah, but you are right. For Côte d'Ivoire, we actually are upstream.
Oh,
All the rivers that
So,
flow between us,
uh-huh.
we are upstream.
We
so
are
we
upstream.
give them.
So we
Interesting.
actually,
Very interesting.
But don't we
It
have
is-
this water courses and then the protocols that
We
we are
do.
signatories to?
No,
and
yes,
there's some restrictions
yes,
on that.
we do.
Yeah.
What we have is for the water.
Okay.
The conventions and management structures that we have is for the water. And that one, there's no major problem with
we
it.
don't have much.
For the beer and the tunnel, we are now in the process of having a convention to define the way we should cooperate. And that part is in the more of a final form.
Did you
which
say
needs to-
there's no much problem with the Volta?
I'm talking about
There's something practical I have seen, and I'm beginning to now connect it.
yeah.
I'm from Bogatanga.
Yes.
My village, Gambigo,
Yeah.
is a little closer
Yeah.
to where the water runs.
The white water.
And yes, the black water. And
The white.
water. And I went there recently, and I realized that sand is covered where you used to see a lot of water running. And sometimes previously you had to climb on the back of a donkey or something before you are crossing over. Now
you can walk
it's
on the sand.
completely dry in the sun. Yeah.
Yes. Something. My focus initially was on illegal mining.
Illegal mining, right.
Okay. That does not mean that the water hasn't got its own issues, but that is the focus. But even with the white water, last year we did a lot of dredging.
Okay.
And we didn't hear about any flooding.
Exactly.
Okay. If it's sustained,
don't get
this
flooded.
flooding would also be.
The water
returned
needs a
back.
place to move. Once they
So-
create the space for it.
Yeah.
it will
So
go.
basically, that is the situation that we have respect to water in terms of the quality. Okay. Now, there's also the issue of the quantity. We normally forget about the fact that we have quantity issues. And like my colleague Dia said, siltation. When you wash the oil in the water, the way you disturb it, sand, and things like that also flow, and then you reduce the volumes also reduce. It means that if you want to treat the water, or if you want to get more money, then you have to dredge. Okay, which goes with cost. Okay, And then the quality also, you need to, as it were, treat, which also goes to with cost. Drinking water supply by Ghana Water Company, over the period, the cost per cubic meter of treatment has been going up from 2007 up to 2017. Okay, 2007 it was 0.026 cedis per meter cube. Okay. By 2017, it had gone up to 0.152 cedis.
That's such a jump.
It's a jump. Yeah, over the period.
That's per meter cube.
A meter cube. A meter cube is 1,000 liters.
Okay. 1,000 liters, that's significant.
Yes. So it's quite, in terms of the cost,
so it's understandable when they say we can't treat anymore.
Precisely.
And they are shutting down at certain places.
Even the machine cannot treat it.
That's the point.
It has a design capacity.
Okay. It's not just about the cost.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the capacity. It's for the machine. In terms of also the filters, the capacity that you can use.
So you have to stop. Otherwise, you spoil the whole machine.
But 2018, when the ban was in place, it came down to 0.135 cedis per meter cube. Again, you look at the relationship. Okay.
It came down.
It came down. So, whichever way it is, there are consequences when these illegal activities are in respect to the water.
What the graphs and permutations you take us through show us is that we are capable of bringing of making success.
We are without a doubt.
We know what to do.
Without a doubt, we are.
And so, what is it that is holding us back?
We are. I think my two colleagues
you had said earlier, Dr. Dia had said earlier that when these things come up, you get to discuss them with people in higher authority, including to the presidency. At this time, how have we brought in, those at the top on what is going on?
All this particular information is available to them. And, of course, we're looking up to the fact that I think some of the issues have been mentioned. How to go about them, refocus in terms of the strategies that need to be done. Okay, in terms of how to control these activities. I think it's been proper. We need to refocus.
Okay.
But still make it a security issue. Okay.
It's a national security issue.
Yes. Right. You still refocus and make it a national a security issue.
Because I'm thinking about something that, for example, recently Ghana Water announced where they have shut somewhere in the central region area. And I'm asking myself, how many can afford to buy water?
Yeah.
And at what price?
Exactly.
Even at the point where we are not importing.
Exactly.
So it's national security.
Exactly. But something, the issue of importing water, we need to explain it for the public to understand.
Okay.
That it is not an option.
Really?
I'm sorry to say so.
It's not an option anymore.
It shouldn't be an option, and it cannot be. We don't have the luxury of importing water. Okay. And I'll explain. When we talk about importing water, it means you are constructing pipes, canals, to transport the water from one jurisdiction to another. Okay. And in our case, we can only do so by constructing from Togo, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire. Okay. That means we are importing water. I'll give you an example. South Africa, they import water from Lesotho, from the highlands, and they've constructed pipes to South Africa.
Okay.
That's the typical importation of water. We don't. We are rather going to export water to Togo through Lomé, which is very good, without a doubt. It's very good because it's going to help both of us if it's done from the water. Okay. But Togo does not have that luxury of having abundant water to give to us. Neither does Burkina Faso or Cote d'Ivoire for that matter. Okay, because already we have the water that flows naturally into the country.
Right.
And that is our right. 30% of our waters come from outside. 30% already comes from outside. So we don't have any excuse to, as it were, compromise the quality and quantity of our waters. But I'll quickly add that every country, almost every country, imports some form of water. But that is virtual water.
Yeah, virtual water, yeah.
Okay, if you produce food, it means you use water to produce the food. And then you export the food. It means you are exporting the water. Okay, and typically food for irrigation purpose takes 70% of a unit of water to produce for its production.
Okay.
Right. So if we import food, it means we are importing virtual water. Okay. And some countries deliberately do that.
All right.
Okay, like Singapore, because they don't have, land to even do food. So they use it basically for drinking purposes. Right. Okay. So for blue water, which is the raw water that we're talking about, we don't have that luxury.
I see.
We don't have
Dr.
that
Bia,
luxury.
you in your paper you spoke about conventions that we may have signed up to, and I'm asking that because Esampoma brings in the aspect of what we do to other countries. Is there a situation where we may be in trouble if we don't stop the complaints they bring? They don't see any improvement. Is there some action that they are capable of taking against Ghana for being responsible for the pollution of their water because of the conventions that you speak about that we have signed to?
Maybe. Let me just say a little bit. For example, when you talk about the Volta, which has a Volta Basin office in Burkina, it is a very, and the protocols are there.
All right.
That most of our water comes from the Volta.
All right.
We are just lucky by God's grace that we don't have a lot of illegal activities, mine activities, where most of the Volta is, apart from the fringes, So you see the bulk of our main Volta, where we do the diamond thing, we don't have these issues there. If we had a problem, it would have been a dire consequences. So what is happening
but
is
a bit of it started in the Upper East region and so
because
on.
The Volta, if you look at the Volta Basin,
and Upper West,
and Upper West. So most of them come from the Burkina Faso, and because we have some bit of in the Upper East region, Talensi, Bani area, where we even have some mines going on.
Right.
Sometimes some of those areas too, they have this issue. But you see, there are huge volumes of water that's coming down.
Okay.
So by the time it gets to the main Volta, you don't see these things, these issues. But talking about what my brother was saying, so if you calculate the amount of water that we have that flows on our land and gets into the sea, we don't use about 15% or 10%. 15% that we use or we need. A country like Ghana, nobody should to have a problem with water.
Okay.
Nobody at all, no matter what. Because if you go to other places, South Africa,
but if they have to spend so much to treat it,
we
may have the water, but it will be very expensive to buy.
That's where we're talking about importing. Because if you look at the raw that comes in, we're using about 15%. The rest it gets into the sea, and then it gets polluted with salt. If you have to take it again, you have to spend so much to treat that one. So if we were doing things right, all the water that is coming in, and we make sure that we help everybody distribute to where they don't have, we shouldn't have any problem. There are places where the whole year, 300 millimeters of water is right at those places. But they don't even cry the way we do. Because they still supply water to Jordan. They have protocol. Even those who are fighting, when it comes to water, they don't.
Okay.
They don't. They have serious agreements among themselves.
Water resources and then CSR, you two at water section, what will be your message to the millions of Ghanaians watching us right here and those who are also in abroad? What will you tell them? And also to policymakers and the political leadership.
Before I do that, you ask a question.
Right.
That what can they do if we affect? the convention that we have, something like, sanctions or whatever, just to put it mildly. We call lawyers, we have what we call significant harm.
Significant harm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Recently, we're taking to the law of the sea.
Precisely. So if you significantly harm your riparian neighbor or country, then there are consequences that you can sit down and then take you up on that.
Okay.
So that is that. Now my message is quite simple: that water has no substitute.
Water has no substitute.
Yeah. Bottom line, we shouldn't compromise with both the quantity and quality of it, no matter the activity, whether it's illegal mining, whether it is what do you call it, improper use in terms of fertilizer use, things like that. Because if we do that, we should forget about importing water. And water is life.
Okay.
So if you don't have water, then it means we don't have life.
You don't have life, yeah. Dr. Dia?
Yeah. What I will add to what he says is that, these issues have a lot of implications. There's a lot of health issues we have not even talked about. Especially when we talk about illegal mining. There's a lot of issues because there are chemicals that are used that are not supposed to be in our bodies, but finally get to our bodies. You can buy your fish somewhere. You don't know where it came from. It might have something that you don't need to have in your body. So the issue is that the problem is self-made. Okay? If you allow things to work, if the people in authority will allow the proper people, the technical people, to deal with these issues, we can solve the problem.
Okay.
We can solve the problem. Like my big brother was saying, we should take the political things and the political people out of this thing. Because politician, when you give him opportunity, he will maximize it. Okay, now we come to election year, there are things that people cannot do. But me, I don't have any problem. I'm not standing in election. If you ask me to go and do my job, I'm going to do my job. So when we ask the right people to do it, we can solve this problem. And then also we appeal to the people who are creating this problem for all of us. That is not only about money. It's not only about money. Our lives are dependent on it. People are dying early. People are getting, somebody comes to work the next day, he got down, fainted, and all sorts of things we cannot explain. But because there are health implications that affect everybody.
Right.
So we need to work together and do the right things so that this country can
So
move on.
we will find some more time. As you know, NewsFile, we have dedicated, and multimedia, we have dedicated substantial time to ensure that we all get to know the damage and the harm we are doing to ourselves and to this country, and now we know even to our neighbors. So the constitutional duty on us to protect the environment is what we are going to continue to do. And we will, like Dr. Drea just ended, we will focus a lot more on the health implications so that we know that this is closer to us than we ever thought. Yes, Kuku, your closing comments on this, and then Dr.
Are you expecting me to come and dilute what we have been taught? Fantastic education. That's where the focus should be. Okay? I'm very well informed and educated today. Nothing more to add.
Okay.
I'm rather going to plead for the documents that they brought here.
Yes. As for him, he likes to carry them.
I want to carry them and steady them.
Okay.
At least spread it, spread the message.
Yes, Dr. Drosa.
I think I would also request for copies of the documents because I teach international environmental law.
Right.
And the figures I'm hearing this morning are scary. I mean, the issue of turbidity level and the fact that the escalating cost of treating water, that on its own has an effect on our financial system. And for me, the question I'm asking myself is, Water Resources Commission, under the Water Resources Commission Act, you have been empowered to even sanction people who divert water courses without your approval. Are you able to do this? Capacity. That's the capacity. Are you able to do this? Because I also know that in environmental law, once environmental damage is proven and there is harm, definitely there is some liability.
Right.
Are you able to do this? So if you are not able to do that, then you also need to be empowered. You also need to be given the opportunity to perform your functions under the Water Resources Commissions Act. So I think it's a comprehensive thing that we need to do. We should continue with the education. And I like your last point, that they should allow the technical people to solve the problem. Politicians cannot solve the problem because the political expediency thing will come to play. So my advice is allow the technical people to do it. Resource them, give the CSIR the resources they need, give Water Resources Commission the resources they need, give them the power as technical people to solve this problem.
Yes. So Dr. Mr. do you want to say something briefly, respond to him? He's asking, are you able to do what the law empowers you to do?
Well, to some extent, I wouldn't want to, as it were, take him on or argue on what the point that he's making.
Okay.
But the issue also is that it's difficult to monitor illegal activities. If it is legal, normally, like Kwaku also said, it's easy, pretty easy. And then you can put in sanctions, especially. But when it is illegal, something is quite difficult.
So this is what it also brings to my mind. As they talk, I also think about the law. So when illegal miners are arrested, we take them to court and we charge them on the illegal mining for doing the wrong thing, using the Minerals and Mining Act. Right. I think we should go beyond that. Exactly. So they are made to also suffer sanctions for the pollution of the water. Using the Water Resources Commission's law also, we can prefer even more sanctions against them. Thank you all so very, very much. We're taking a break, and when we return, I have a lot of messages to share with you, including one from our expert we spoke to on the health implications, Kwame Sapong Esiedu. We'll be right back. Thank you very much once again, sir. Right. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on NewsFile, we put Ghana first. Now, let me share with you a few of your messages. And I discovered that there are just too many messages. You are trying to go ahead of yourself, trying to preempt that we should be discussing other things rather than what we were doing. Kwame Sapong Esiedu says that the data just presented on turbidity scares me. Heavy metals used in mining normally chelate to sand particles during mining. As a result, when these silt particles settle at the river basin, these heavy metals like mercury have more time to leach into our water tables. This means these heavy metals will travel much further afield and impact on the health of the wider population. Thus, you could be polluting in Achimota and causing cancer in Shama. This must scare all of us. Well, if what we have heard doesn't scare you, I don't know what else will. But it must scare you unto righteousness. This one from Togbi Agoyim Fiaga says the fight against legal mining has proven to become a partisan albatross on the neck of our country. I bet all political parties and political interests are more or less complicit in this dastardly canker. Any commitment or pledge to deal with the menace on partisan platform is nothing less than a smokescreen. I agree with Dr. Odrosai on the decentralization approach of the Interministerial Committee. However, the head of the decentralized units are also politicians, so we might end up at a zero-sum effect. A truly participatory approach which integrates communities and backed by pictorial evidence of the futuristic impact of illegal mining on our environment may do some magic. That's all I can read. I'm sorry, it's too long. And then, so another one, this one is from Sally Kem. He says, Okay, so I'll pause here and then we go to deal with the matters of Get Fund. And as you know, the Auditor General's report is being impugned by the Get Fund administrator. So we find out what exactly are the problems of the Get Fund administrator, and then we look into other aspects of it as well. But joining us here on the second segment of the program today is the MP for Timpane and Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Joseph Dindiok Penka. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Samson.
And we can't thank Ben Yao Ampoma, Executive Secretary, Water Resources Commission, and Dr. Anthony Apiadua, Head Groundwater Division of the CSR, enough. Thank you all so very much. So I understand that we should have Richard Boedu, who is the Get Fund administrator, on the line. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Okay, right. So I had also earlier told you that there is some other person that we'll bring on the line, and you will be shocked at what we are doing to ourselves. Dr. Fathia Karim is a graduate of the KNUST School of Medical Sciences 2016 year group. She graduated at the top of her class, awarded 12 out of the 15 prizes. I'm sure this was in the news and you followed it. She completed her 2-year housemanship program and now working as a medical officer. Thank you for making time to join us on NewsFile, Doc. Good morning, Dr. Fathia Karim.
Hello, good morning.
Right, good to have you. Okay, so I've heard about your story of how you were seeking little support, even after all the brilliance that you showed, and yet were turned away at the premises of the Get Fund. Now, this is where you are. What can you tell us about this interesting story?
Well, so it all started in 2018. Early 2018, I applied for a master's program in some American universities to study the master's in public health. And after gaining admission into these universities, some of them offered me a partial tuition scholarship. And so I was looking for an external source of funding to help me pay for the rest of my tuition fees.
Right.
So I decided to apply to Get Fund, and I asked around about the scholarship and the requirements and what I needed to apply. I spoke to a few people who had applied previously, and although the news was not too good because they told me these days Get Fund was not giving so much support as they used to. But I still decided to go ahead and apply anyway because I felt like even if the funding was limited, I felt like I was qualified enough to be at least considered for the scholarship.
Right.
So after I received another email from Mr. Paul Wong, he's the senior program manager for Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health Program. He's the senior program manager. He sent 3 of us who are Ghanaians who had been admitted an email and told us we were the top 3 rated candidates from Ghana. So we shouldn't have too much of a problem in securing funding from Get Fund. Because over there, their mindset was that in Ghana, Ghanaians didn't get support from Get Fund. So getting funding from them should not be a problem. So with that, I added that to my documents and submitted it at the premises of Get Fund. at the reception desk, because that's where you leave all your documents. And I left. So after about 2 weeks to a month, I called back to find out if any feedback could be given to me. But they said they had not deliberated on, or they've not decided on who was receiving the scholarship as yet. So I kept calling because I did not receive any feedback from them. I even went there back once in person to inquire how far the process has gone. But unfortunately, the time for the decision made as to whether I can go or not, it elapsed. So without the funding, I had to defer for the next year. And then, so the following year came, and the senior program manager once again told me that some people receive funding, so he does not understand why I did not receive funding. And I was surprised because I had heard the new policy was the programs in the US were too expensive, so they were not giving funding for tuition. But if you were able to get your tuition from elsewhere, you'd be given a stipend. But he kept insisting that some people get some money for tuition. And he even gave me their email so I could contact them to find out how they were able to do it. So I spoke to about 2 of them. One of them actually just got a stipend, but I think 2 of them got half of their tuition or part of their tuition from Get Fund. And they told me it was a struggle because they had to be going to the offices frequently. And for over 2 months, they kept going there. And in the end, they were giving the scholarship. But then, from what the administrator said, it did not look like they were going to do that again. They were not going to give the tuition as I had been previously told. I also received a LinkedIn request. It was quite interesting because all of a sudden I saw that the Minister of Education had sent me a LinkedIn request, and I was so excited. I was like, wow, how did this even happen? Because I was trying to find a way to speak to him personally about this issue. I'm not sure if he sent it personally or his handler sent it, but either way, I received one. And I accepted the request, and then I told him about this predicament, and he told me no scholarships were given for anyone who went to apply for a scholarship to study in America. But instead, specific grants were given, and I'm not sure what that actually means. And that the consideration for the selection was not only based on academics, but also the relevance of the course to national development. And if the course is unavailable in Ghana, I was like, okay, that's fine. But then I decided to reapply anyway, again. And this time I was outside Accra, so my dad decided to send the documents on my behalf. But I think at the reception, they told him it wasn't time. And he also spoke to another person on the premises who said it would be better if we knew someone who could bring it directly to the higher ups at Get Fund. So my dad tried. So that means I applied only once, but the second time, the application was not submitted. My dad was trying to work his way around it, trying to find someone to help, but he kept being tossed around, actually. So the whole, over 6 months, this one will say, wait, I'll get this one for you. This person will say, wait, I'll get this person for you. And the time ran out, unfortunately. So I had to decline my admission once again. So that's what happened over the 2 years, or a year and a half.
Interesting. So what point are we now? You're giving up on it?
So at this point, I almost did give up on it. I felt like if you're doing the same thing and there's no change, why keep on doing it? But I decided, the dean of Johns Hopkins University emailed me after I had to decline the offer the second time, encouraging me to reapply. So that was the only reason why I have actually reapplied. And they've accepted me once again. So Now I'm going to submit, hopefully, another application to get funded. I'm not sure how far it's going to go, but it's worth a try.
All right. Thank you very much. You'll be talking to the Get Fund administrator, and we'll ask if you don't qualify, who else is qualified for the scholarships. Thank you very much for your time. Dr. Fathia Karim is a graduate of the KNUST School of Medical Sciences, the 2016 year group. I'm sure you may have seen her in the papers and in the media all over the place because she won 12 of the 15 prizes that were at stake at the graduation ceremony. Thank you once again.
Thank you, too.
All right. So we'll ask the Get Fund administrator whether, since they have, like the Auditor General said, they took away the award or the processing of scholarships from the Scholarship Secretariat, which is the entity they should be giving the money to do the job, and have been doing it themselves since 2009. Even though it does appear that in 2017, 2018, or is it 2018, 2019, they appear to have changed now, and they are beginning to put the necessary structures in place. Why Fathia Karim cannot and must go through this frustration to go pursue a course that will have direct benefits to the country. We have heard of a gentleman who was on Ghana Connect. He needed just like 1,000 cedis to be able to fund his education at the Ghana Telecoms University. He didn't have that money. He does, kebab in the afternoon or in the evening to supplement it. He sought help, he can't find. Are these not the people who are deserving, and are they not the reason the Get Fund was set up? We'll find out. All right, so let's begin, and I was hoping to speak to the Get Fund administrator first because he has raised a number of issues about the Get Fund. Well, I think we can listen to him briefly. He spoke to Asempa FM. We can listen to him briefly, and then when we have him on the phone, we can speak to him directly to explain the problems and difficulties they have with the audit itself.
In his own words, okay, I said the list was generated by Get Fund.
Tell us,
the list na Kasana or the buy of the 88. Me want to say in Yamabi list of 80. Yama list be it was a file of documents incorporating people that have been shortlisted, people that have applied. Any financial files and a file files, different various of files.
Okay.
Any demand say on working on it, and based on that, he created that list.
Okay.
A total huge numbers of scholarship application, and on no picky 88. That is what they requested. Into the whole document now. Into a be shortlisted. Some will be classified as shortlisted. Some will be classified as awarded. Some will be classified as approved. Awarded is a yatro letter. Offer letter and say Jinako. Approval no. When I committee ni di amami na me ma approve na ma forward it to me deputy no the acco the scholarship section no one about award letter e di ama Into the 88 no, we find out that 12 there is no financial obligation towards them.
12 in the 88.
Omanko school.
But it was part of the list of the Auditor General.
Part of the list. The list,
yeah, it was part
of the files, the documents,
because they had applied.
But Sankomi a due diligence. Komba said there was no financial implication. Yen committee financially to them.
Audit service.
Audit service sika on the bay audit no. Finance for in releases sika ne ema. But na ade no so hia yen. Nti omo chroba say ye ma omu sika.
Okay.
No mo fan kwankwa ye audit no. Me call me minister ho. Me kan no say asem no waba be chensa ade no hia. Nti ade nti na wo twintwen so. Yenko ne yenko kotua ema wo say no mbetimi aye adwuma no. Eni yetua sika.
Into get fund and casa a finance audit night.
Sa pepe, you 350,000 for
350,000
cities, Ghana cities for auditing, auditing, include 3 universities,
okay.
Any scholarship
on a simple
any other infrastructure auditing.
Okay, into so far report now about Tobiano, the aspect on the scholarship.
The scholarship. Me patcho besine the 3 universities, any others in there. 3 years are you 2 years, Yensanka bibia.
Yensanka report.
Yensanka report ni bia.
Munim so mo wie na report amon fama man as munim dia kosi.
Scholarship no and omudi kan e dey buy. But till date yente eno ho asem bia.
The other ones na kan monte.
Yente wo hwe.
All right, so you heard the administrator of the Get Fund, Richard Buedu, speaking there on Ekosi Sen with Philip Osei-Bonsu, the host, and he spoke in Chi, quite a bit of it. If I want to translate, it will take us too much time, but essentially, he's impugning aspects of the audit. Number one, he says this is a job that they paid for the Auditor General to do. And they are not happy that when he was done with the job, we say he, but we know it's an institution. When he was done with the job, they were not served with a copy, and yet a copy was circulating out there. They are not exactly happy about that. Among other things, there's a list that you all are aware now, politically exposed persons, media persons, among others, who the Auditor General names in the audit, and which has become a big issue. There was an MP, Kennedy Osei-Nyako, who was very angry that his name was in the list, yet he didn't, see why his name should be there because he had nothing to do with Get Fund. Well, thankfully, the administrator confirms that he had made an application, but it is not the case that he was giving any money for anything. So there's no reason his name should be there. And he raises other issues as well. Whilst my guests are discussing, maybe they may also translate a bit of more of what he had to say. Now, if I may begin with Dr. Drosai, and as from where you sit as a professional, and as I said earlier, you are not only a chartered accountant, but you're also written on in this, kind of subject. If we can deal briefly with what you have seen the Auditor General's report to contain and the complaints you have heard from the administrator and other persons, what you have to say about them.
Thank you very much, Samson. I've read the Auditor General's report, and as a professional, you would always have to look at the audit objective. And it is important we help people to understand that the Auditor General indicated that he undertook performance audit. And performance audit is trying to establish whether the institution has performed its mandate according to the establishment instrument. It is not a financial audit. It is a performance audit.
What's the difference?
The difference is that in the financial audit, the institution has its financial statements. The auditor goes there to perform verification and vouching to establish whether the financial statement shows a true and fair view of the activities of the organization.
So I was asking the wrong questions last week when I asked why they didn't do vouching and verification.
Definitely, because, well, vouching can be done in financial audit, but when it comes to performance audit, verification is key.
Okay.
You do verification and performance audit is more qualitative than quantitative, except that at times you need some quantitative information to support the qualitative conclusion. So basically, the auditor did a performance audit. Now, in doing performance audit, the functions of the organization, as per the establishment instrument, is critical. So once you define this, then the professional standards requires that you comply with standards that comes into play when you are performing performance audit.
Okay.
And this standards requires that you meet with them at an entrance conference, you request for certain key information. And let me also explain that the auditor is expected to do either sampling audit or 100% audit. The 100% audit is where the volume of transaction is not that voluminous. He will be able to do everything. But looking at the space of time, I suspected he used sampling audit. And here, materiality
2012 to 2018.
That's right. I can imagine the volume of transactions. Now, sampling audit requires that you set materiality level. In auditing, you can say that transactions above this value, I will not review them because they are immaterial. But if it is below this value, I will review them. So then, once he sets the materiality level and he samples, he can pick and choose them. So if you are not finding certain names in the report, it is because of the audit approach. 2, once you set up those limits, you have to gather relevant, reliable, and sufficient audit evidence that will support your conclusion. And that's what he did. Now the conclusions is drawn that, look, Get Fund is not supposed to go into direct administration of the funds. They are to rather supplement it or give it to the scholarship secretariat for the secretariat to do their implementation. That conclusion I have seen. Again, what I have also seen, and I know is the professional practice, is in the course of the audit, you issue audit queries. Once you issue the queries, the auditee, be the administrator and his staff, are expected to respond. Once they respond, you have to incorporate it into the report. I see from paragraph 116 of the Auditor General's report that he has incorporated the response from the auditee. So his conclusions are fair. But the questions I'm asking is, why did the Auditor General over-concentrated on the administrator? Because when you look at the Get Fund Act, we have Board of Trustees. And the functions of the Board of Trustees, as provided for under Section 7, it's clear that they are expected to provide directions for the management of the fund. So if there is any culpability, you hold them responsible because the administrator merely implemented the directives and the directions of the Board of Trustees. And you and I know that when it comes to trust, they are expected to manage it in such a way that it will benefit us, the beneficiaries. They are in an agency capacity, so they cannot fail us. So these are the things I've seen happening. But my view is that the auditor applied the auditing procedures expected of him under that particular circumstance. His conclusions are fair, and anybody who thinks that he's been unfair to them can take the auditor on. The auditor owes a duty to all of us, to the auditee, to third parties, to apply the due care, skill, and diligence required of a professional. And there is also professional negligence in there if you feel he's been negligent. So my personal view is that he's done his work. We should leave it at that. Those who feel slighted by his work can take him on at another level. Institute of Chartered Accountant is there. He's a professional accountant and a member of the ICA. If you think he's been professionally negligent, you go there. If you think you can take him on under thought, you take him on. So that is what I can say about this audit report.
So he was very categorical about certain things.
That's right.
That from 2009, the administrator usurped the role of the scholarship secretariat by curtailing and stopping, sending us and giving monies, their portion of the money to the scholarship secretariat. Because as far as the Auditor General is concerned, it is a scholarship secretariat that should administer scholarships. Your job, according to Section 22B, is give them the money to do the job. So he says they took the job away from the scholarship secretariat. I think it's around 20 18, 19 thereabouts, that they began to restore, the new administrator began to restore this kind of process. So, what do you say to those who make the argument that there is also the Section 22E that allows the Get Fund,
educational
yes,
activities.
that allows Get Fund to, as it were, promote other educational programs and activities. And under that clause, they are able to give us scholarships. So the Auditor General is not exactly right.
Samson, you see, if we are reading the law, we should read it in whole. The 2E is saying to provide monies to support such other educational activities and programs. They said to provide money to support, not to administer, such other educational activities and programs for the promotion of education. Promotion of education, not for education. Promotion of education as the minister, in consultation with the board, may determine. Question we need to ask ourselves is, did the minister determine that the areas he supported, which have been flagged by the auditor, are the areas the funds should go? That conclusion we need to come to. If the auditor, through his evidence gathering process, established that there was no such clearance or approval from the minister, then he is right.
The audit says they didn't get any evidence to this effect of the consultation and approval. But we have heard lawyers suggest that, you know, these things are done and they are taken to Parliament for approval. So there will be a minister's involvement. So if you say you don't have it, then the auditor may be wrong.
Samson, the auditor may not be wrong entirely, because the auditor attached to his report the formula that was sent to Parliament for Parliament to approve by way of utilization of the fund. And this is not there. So in the performance audit, like I said, qualitative information is critical. The auditor needed that information. He gave you the opportunity to respond. You never responded in there. And I have his responses incorporated in the report from paragraph 116. Okay. Nowhere in the administrator's response did he indicate that the minister approved those things. You know, so I think that there is another option of audit review. If we have fresh evidence, next year or this year, they may go to do the annual audit. Right. They'll review it and check whether these things are there. If they are there, he can come back to amend his audit report.
So the administrator should be explaining why, at the time of the audit, when they were giving the opportunity to explain certain things, he didn't give the information he's supplying us now, using on the back of which information he's impugning the audit. It's too late for him. Is that what you're saying?
It may be too late because the report has been issued, okay. But he's not forever barred from providing that information, because the auditor will go back and do his annual audit, and he may want to review to see progress of some of the recommendations he's made.
He'll appear before Parliament's public accounts.
Yes, that doesn't spoil anything.
Okay.
Doesn't spoil. He can bring the evidence. And again, the administrator, through the board, can also submit the evidence to Public Accounts Committee. But at this stage, I would advise the board not to sit back, because the law places a lot of responsibility on the board. They are in a position of trust. So they should also come out and be speaking whether or not they made an input into this particular process.
Okay. There are those who suggest that if you look at the other part of the law, Section 22D, it also says that the Get Fund can, give scholarships to train brilliant students to become teachers or for purposes of research, and that should be done through the National Council on Tertiary Education, or NCTC, TE. Is the auditor right by suggesting that they are wrong somewhat, because they gave some of the scholarship to teachers and so on? Should they have given it to the institutions that those teachers are in, for those institutions to administer it, or give it to the NCTE to determine which institution needs to sponsor its teachers?
I think the auditor is right in citing that they were wrong in administering it themselves, because the law is clear that it is to be provided through the National Council of Tertiary Education. And this is about brilliant students, and it is to be given to members of faculties. Who is best placed to establish whether you are a member of faculty or not? And even there are certain programs that may not even be relevant to certain faculties. Aside from that, they said they should undertake research and other academic programs of relevance to national development. And that is why we have National Council for Tertiary Education. So in my view, I'm happy they are back on track to allow these institutions to perform the mandate given to them by law. But they should also be humble enough to admit that we erred by administering it ourselves instead of giving the funds to the National Council for Tertiary Education and Scholarship Secretariat to administer.
The question is asked that if you say that the Auditor General, the Get Fund cannot give scholarship directly, it is only the Scholarship Secretariat, or if he wants to give to teachers or for research, it should give it to NCTE for distribution to the universities or institutions that need them. Then what you're saying is that they may not be scholarship for purposes of traveling abroad for further studies. That's why they use the E and say that's the power they have to do. Because if you look at 22B, it is only for local sponsorship.
That's right.
Local sponsorship. It doesn't include sending anybody abroad. Then if you look at the D that you have just looked at, then again, it is for the institutions to administer. So they are saying that if they look at a situation and they feel somebody needs, like Dr. Fatia, we just spoke to, she needs to travel abroad. If they make application to them, they should be able to administer that to them.
But Samson, you see, the framers of the law may not be wrong by saying under 2.1 that the object of the fund is to provide finance to supplement the provision of education. Aside from that, you see, there are certain things that are best done by certain institutions. In Dr. Fatia's case, I was going to comment on it. You have finished 2016, you came top of your class. 2 years down the line, you finish with your housemanship, which comes to 2018. That same 2018, you are going to do MPH. MPH can be done at University of Ghana, Legon. 2 years, it is now that Ghana will benefit from you. So some of these analysis can best be done by the institutions themselves. Okay. That is not to say that she doesn't deserve it. But what I'm saying is that under the principle of subsidiarity, let us allow state institutions mandated to perform specific functions by their law to perform those functions.
Will you blame her if she is aware, as we are now, that out of over 3,000 scholarships that were given within the period, only about 800 was for local, sponsorship was for locals. The rest of it was for foreign studies. So if she's applying, why should she be faulted?
Well, I have an answer to that, but maybe it's not my turn. When it comes to my turn, I will address that issue.
Maybe
especially Dr. Fatia's case.
Right.
I have personally made an inquiry from the Get Fund Secretariat. What exactly was the reason for what happened? And I've been provided with some answers. Yes.
Okay. Right now you have done that.
I've done that.
Okay.
And the answer is very straight. That first of all, there's a capping for American universities, which is $30,000, and in her case it was $75,000. Okay. That's one of the reasons. Okay. The other reason is that the course has a local.
That reason.
Just a minute.
If you check the auditor's reports, they have given in excess of that.
Just hold it. Just hold it. If you look at our local environment, that course is being offered here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's one of the reasons. And you see, what they try to do is that they try to encourage many more people to read courses that we don't have local content.
So now they are correcting the problem.
Which is what they are supposed to do actually.
Okay.
Because, Samson, what would be the reason why a course that will cost us 5,000 Ghana cedis to study in Ghana, we should pay 30,000 for someone to go and study in the US, the same course? What would be the reason?
So why don't they tell her?
It would defeat the purpose.
Why don't they tell her that that is the situation?
Absolutely. I think that's what should be communicated to her.
She wasn't told.
In writing. It should be written to her that, look, 2 reasons. Our capping for American universities is $30,000. That's one. Number 2, the course you're going to do, we have a local component and it's cheaper here. So you can do it here. That should have been written and communicated to her. I do agree with that. But you see, the impression has been created as though she's been discriminated against. You know, and that's what is very dangerous.
By the facts that we know so far in the audit, that would be such a huge discrimination against her.
Yes.
That you can't find someone like her qualified to benefit from a package that other people have had in excess of that amount.
You see, Samson, that's why I'm saying that. You see, we are putting things in a certain perspective for the benefit of all of us.
Right.
And until we are able to and of course, if we have done something in the past and we realize we are the wrong, shouldn't we correct it?
Right.
Should we continue to wallow in that wrong? I don't think so at all. You see, this Get Fund brouhaha, I have tried everything possible to make inquiry, even from the Auditor General and all that. I've spoken to him personally and all that. And I think that we could have avoided where we are today. We could have avoided it completely. It's totally needless where we are. First of all, let me ask a fundamental question. This report needs to get to Parliament.
Right.
The committee will invite these persons to come and give an explanation. And remember that in the recent past, people were even arrested at the committee's sittings and all that. These persons, the administrator and his staff, will go and provide justifications for all the questions and queries that have been raised. And if they are not convincing enough, then other steps will be taken to remedy it. What is the reason why we threw this to the public domain when it hadn't gotten to the final stage where people will go and answer and etc.? What's the purpose?
The auditor
Was it a sin?
The auditor says, I'm done with my report. The Constitution mandates me to send it to the Speaker.
Yes.
So I sent it to the Speaker.
Yes.
And by our act, I'm supposed to put a copy on our page, on their web page. So they put a copy there and send one to Parliament. Have they done wrong?
No, you see, but that's why I'm saying that. He may be saying that putting it on his page, he hasn't done anything wrong. But why couldn't he hold it till Parliament has invited them to provide the justification? You see, I'm saying this because, you see, if you listen carefully to the Get Fund administrator, he stated very categorically that there were a whole lot of files that were given. It will take us to another level of discussion.
For about 9,000 applications. Yes. That's what he spoke about.
Yes, you see, it will take us to another realm of this discussion. And the discussion will be focused on what was this sample size that was taken. Yeah. What was the basis for the sample size? And the particular persons and personalities who were selected, what was the basis for it? Samson, when I first read this report and I went to social media, my goodness, they virtually criminalized some of the beneficiaries and calling them names, people were greedy, and etc., and awarding scholarships to themselves. People didn't even know that some of the beneficiaries did not benefit under this current dispensation, and that it was earlier that they benefited, and some of them ran certain courses. And you see, I want us to put certain things in perspective once more. So I'm saying we should be finding out from ourselves whether or not if an MP goes to do a course for 3 weeks that will enhance his work in Parliament, it is to the benefit of the state or not. Maybe we may have to redefine what
should the MP access funding within Parliament or go to Get Fund?
If it is not available in Parliament and Get Fund can invoke 22E to say that it is other educational activities and say that for the benefit of the country, let us sponsor this person to go pursue the course. You see, you know that is pure discretion, isn't it? Which is exercised in compliance with Article 296. It's pure discretion. And you must find out whether the person's conduct and actions are contrary to law. You see, when the
law provides the very clear specifics of the category or group of things that one has to do and gets to a final point and makes another provision and doesn't include scholarship.
I'm going to address that something.
Is it your understanding of the law that you are able to administer scholarships, even though you are just a trust? You are able to administer scholarship.
I don't want to speak Latin
what
this morning.
Because
I don't want
Dr.
to speak Latin
disagrees with you.
But something.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to speak law. I'm just going to speak English in its ordinary sense. When you are given a discretion to run something, and there is a list, you are supposed to act in compliance with the law. There's a list. And you are asked to comply with that. For example, if they had given the money for my village women to brew pito, in my analysis, that would be a breach of the act. Because brewing of pito is not an educational activity.
The law,
please take note of that.
The law is aware of education promotion activities.
Yes.
And yet it spoke about scholarship at different stages.
Yes.
Is there a reason why they didn't speak about scholarship in the E? Is there a reason they didn't mention scholarship?
That is why, for me, when I read this thing, I said that we will have a final decision on this matter if we go to court.
Why do you want to go to court? What's
an interpretation
in your training?
Of 2E.
In your training?
Yes.
What is the principle of interpretation?
Of course, that's what I was just talking about.
That once the lawmaker says scholarship here, scholarship there, and gets to another point within the same breath and doesn't mention scholarship, does it give you the right to give scholarship?
If it says educational activities, the question will be whether awarding scholarship for someone to study abroad is an educational activity. That would be the fundamental question. And that's why I'm saying that we may need a court to give an interpretation to this. You see, something, things may appear that easy and straightforward. But when you go to court for an interpretation, you may be very much shocked what the courts are likely to say. Because the question fundamentally will be at that stage, whether in E, educational activities cannot be interpreted to include granting scholarship for persons to study specialized areas abroad. Because remember that before then, the scholarship that is anticipated or stated is local. And that's supposed to be administered by the Scholarship Secretariat, which you indicated that the GET Fund did administer that contrary to law when they were supposed to actually send that money.
I didn't indicate. That's what the
No, you indicated, and that was, of course, from the report.
Right.
So what I can say is that, for me, the 2E gave them that opportunity to act the way they did. And you see, let me tell you something.
When the GET Fund, for example, is helping, a school in your area to do a particular project, that will not be scholarship, right? If it is helping, say, brilliant science and maths quiz, will that be promoting of educational activity?
Already the GET Fund, the provision of infrastructure is one of their core mandates.
Right.
So don't go there.
No, I'm not talking about infrastructure.
Yes.
Because in 22A, it is clear about infrastructure. Where you have to put money in the student's loan, it is clear in C. Correct?
But let me find out from you. Is there an auster clause in the law that says that they cannot provide scholarship to persons to study abroad? There's no auster clause.
My question to you is...
There's no auster clause.
And you're learning as a lawyer.
Yes.
How do you interpret a law? Once it says in A, give scholarship. It comes to B, says give scholarship. It comes to C, says promote activities. Does it give you power to give scholarship?
What is the nature of the scholarship in A and B? What's the nature of the scholarship in A and B? If it has stated in A and B categorically that the scholarship there will include scholarship to study abroad, then you cannot read E to include that.
Why does it not say? Why does it not say? Because I'm thinking about foreign scholarship. In the E, as you say, give scholarship to for studies abroad.
You see, but that is why I'm talking about the fact that we will need an interpretation. You see, and we may even go and read the Hansard.
All right.
And find out in crafting this what the MP's motive was. What was the reason for this particular E?
Okay.
What was the reason for it? Otherwise, you see, we're going to limit it to interpret it in a manner that will suit our personal interest in certain circumstances. You will say that the E there will include supporting the people of Timpani constituency with some local material to enhance teaching and learning. That's what you are likely to say, promotion of educational activities. But the question I've asked fundamentally is whether studying abroad is not an educational activity. That's the fundamental issue that we should be raising. And you see...
So my question to you is, why don't they say in the first and second situation, promotion of educational activity, promotion of educational activity? Why did they say scholarship? And then they get there and they don't say scholarship.
That is why I am indicating to you that educational activities there has not been defined.
Okay.
It gives you a discretion. And so long as you can offer a justification for that, you can go ahead and do it.
Okay.
But I'm saying that this particular whole gamut of discussion that we are engaged in, for me, with the greatest respect, is needless. We shouldn't have gotten here at all.
Okay.
If we had acted with with certain amount of circumspection and prudence, we should not have gotten here. Because you see, at a point in time, virtually we're criminalizing the GET Fund in the discussions that we had, as though scholarships were, and I have, I mean, records. I've been to GET Fund ever since this thing grew, because the GET Fund boss is somebody I relate very well with. I went to find out from a very solid gentleman. You know, I went to find out from him some of these things. And he provided a list of persons who are beneficiaries. Some of them studying courses that are going to be of so much significance.
I need to take a break here, but before that, tell me, if you say that this room gives them the opportunity to give scholarship abroad, does it give them room to give scholarship abroad, which should be more than the local scholarship? Because over 2,000 goes to a foreign scholarship. And then you have 800 and so going to the local.
What I think I will only have problems with GET Fund.
Okay.
Are issues related to what Fataya was complaining about. If, for example, somebody is studying LLM in a program that is offered at the University of Ghana, and then the person decides to go and study the same program in Harvard, and then you pay for the person. For that, I will not buy into the idea at all. Okay. I think that we should be encouraging that we study courses that are not really locally available, so that we can come back and enhance and engender national development, rather than paying $30,000 for a course that locally will cost us less than $10,000.
Okay. Right, so we take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll hear more of him, but we'll hear from Kweku first. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on NewsFile, we put Ghana first. So, as Penka, you know, relaxes a bit, we hear from Kweku, and perhaps the very first time you may get to hear him on this. So, a number of questions, and I want you, when you start, you know, you flow as much as you want to. Question is, number one, for the entire period of the audit, GET Fund, which was administering these scholarships, was found not to have used standards that scholarship awarding institutions adhere to. So they took GMPC, for example, and look at the way the processes of awarding scholarships. And they found that as for GET Fund, what had become of the thing is that once you know that it is GET Fund place, you go and put your application there, and the administrator deals with it directly, instead of advertising for the scholarships. They admit that it is in, I think, the last year that GET Fund has now run adverts telling people they can come for it. Beyond that, for each year, they were giving more than they had. If Parliament approved 100,000 for you for scholarship, who is forcing you to give scholarships for 300,000? And they did in excess of 300%. It is recently that they have managed to bring it down to about 100%, overspending about 100%, and at a certain point, I think 90 or 60 something percent. What do you make of all of this?
See, you know, in principle, I have had the attitude of backing, or if you like, giving critical support to the Auditor General and the Audit Service. And I'm not talking of just this Auditor General or the management now. These creatures of Constitution, and especially when it comes to probity and accountability principles, it's always good to give them the benefit of the doubt and support so that they can do their work. It helps us. So, in principle, that's my position on this matter. However, and I said critical support, that means that where you think an audit report or an Auditor General has erred, we should have the courage of conviction to state it and interrogate the issues the way they are. You know, and Mr. Pemba actually went in that direction. I felt very uncomfortable when the report, a very important report like this, became a subject of political football and propaganda debate out there, I felt very uncomfortable. Not that I'm against people talking, but you see, there's a procedure. You submit this report to the Speaker for parliamentary scrutiny. I am not sure when the Auditor General published his thing on the website. I'm not sure. I have to be very careful. Because I know that you can do that only when you have presented the report to the Speaker. I think that's the sequence. So I'm not too sure when that happened. But you see, these matters and all these controversies we are having.
But the letter of transmittal is 8 November 2019.
Yes, that doesn't mean that's when it went to Parliament. Indeed, my own latest search, and that's why I'm not sure when it was published on the website of the Audit Service. But the report got to Parliament February 7th, 2020.
Okay.
Even though if you read the transmitter letter, as you are saying, it is stated that November, it was sent to the 8th November 2019. But if you do further search, you will see that the auditor, and I have it here, the Auditor General, this letter is dated 5th February 2020. The stamp of receipt from the office of the Speaker is 7th February 2020.
Okay.
So sometimes if you are not careful, you'll be deceived by the official record.
Okay.
You have to do deeper interrogation. But I do not know when it was put on its website. That is what.
But 7th February will still mean that it got to Parliament before we began to discuss it.
Yes, but that's why I said website.
Okay.
I'm talking here of the procedures that have been aligned by law, their own act. As for we, the public, why, if I intercept and I bring it here, won't we discuss it?
Of course.
Yes, we'll discuss it, even if it's 2 months before the Speaker gets it. You can't stop us. You see, and why I'm making this point is this. When such reports go through the procedures that are outlined by law, we are able to do the discussions dispassionately. And wherever there are errors and things to are handled properly without any imputing any ill motive or mischief to anybody. Here we are, before even the Public Accounts Committee will deal with the issues. We are interrogating the issues. I've heard some staff of the Audit Service already on air. I've heard a Get Fund person on air, give and take, explaining things. I would have wished that hadn't happened. I would have wished that this focused interaction took place at the Public Accounts Committee. Because see, I've gone through some of the documentation. First of all, and that's why the social media went in all over. See, Appendix 5, the list of 88, the title. I found it very significant. Members of Parliament, politicians, media practitioners, lecturers, heads of institutions and associates awarded scholarships. Members of Parliament, politicians. I've checked the list. I realized that you were talking about 3,100.
Yes.
It was around 9,000.
Applications.
Those accepted were 3,112.
Yes.
6,362 rejected. Now I watched this list of 88, which is titled in this way. I've been counting the politicians and the MPs there. How many are they?
What's your issue?
About 4 or 5 politicians. But out there, when this was put out, it was as if politicians had raided the Get Funds table.
Yes.
And look, such issues, I've always said it here, it's like the ex gratia, those things. You put it out in the streets, the masses win. Because you are playing on the keyboards of people's emotions.
Is it the problem of the Auditor General that you are reading and using it the way you want to do?
The titling was his.
And what's wrong with the titling?
The titling, look, my view really is that set up the discussions relative to politicians and MPs.
The law says when they find any infractions or anything, they should draw attention to Parliament. So that's what you have done.
Yeah, but so far, nobody has proved to me that an MP being a beneficiary violates the law. You've been having that argument. I have it. My stand goes with Pempa's stand. Because, see, the distribution formula goes to Parliament. Yeah. Of course, they don't cite individual MPs, but there's a portion for MPs. Yes. And Parliament approves it. So if there has been some illegalization of it, let's look at it from that broad angle. Either a judicial pronouncement or an amendment of the legislative instrument, of the act.
That's the Auditor General's interpretation of the law, and it's categorical. This is wrong.
Fine, but he's not the finality.
He's not competent to
so he says so. He says so.
But that's fine. But that's why I've moved to the level that either you have a judicial pronouncement, determination, or a legislative amendment. But if you judged it this way, fine. But I'm saying that the listing, the titling itself was significant. I don't think it came out from the blue. You know, I would have gone along with it if in this 3,000 or so people, you had about 200 or so politicians. I haven't seen the full list. The list he's put here is 88. He finds that list significant. A list of 88 beneficiaries, significant. And he titles them. But I said, when I go through it, I saw just some 4 or 5 politicians or politically affiliated persons. 2 or 3 real politicians and 1 or 2 related to some politicians.
And one of them has even come out to say he didn't benefit.
Yes, but apparently he did some application.
Only he didn't.
And you see, beyond that too, something. Please.
No, but we must state the correction too.
Yeah.
When the MP, Kennedy Osenyako, through his lawyers wrote, they never suggested anywhere in his own interviews, never suggested that he had applied.
You are right.
But now the Get Fund administrator has told us that he actually applied.
Yes, which makes it
so it is just the benefit he didn't get, which a number of people have suffered the same thing.
Yes, and I think the MP should have been a bit more open. Deputy Minister should have been a bit more open. I applied, I didn't get. That would have been a fair assessment of the thing. You see, and then, again the difficulty, and I realized Doctor was trying to explain it. I'm not well educated on these things. But you see, when you go through the list of 88, my checks, straight away 12 out because they never even benefited. So that list of 88 is reduced by 12. Now, another point, 39 of the list of 88, if you check the financials, completely out of gear.
What do you mean?
See, let me use a classic. There are many. I've listed over 10. But just because we don't have time, perhaps I will have to take Matthew. I'm taking a popular one so that you can get the point. He yeah, okay. If you check the tuition fee, it's correct. It's $11,200. That is stated in the Auditor General's thing. 11,200. Then when it comes to the living allowance, stop point. It is stated here 12,800. But the record showed that it was 1,150. And the 39, the list of 39, each of them, the figure given is in contradiction with the official
record
one.
Are you talking about?
Which record?
The Auditor General's own work.
The Auditor General's own work.
At one place where you have
the 88
lists. Compared to what list?
Compared to the list.
The full list that was supplied the Auditor General?
No.
Or what?
A list, but you know you are talking to an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
Actual beneficiaries.
Yeah, you are talking to an investigative journalist. I'm sure, and that's why I said I would have wished these things happen at Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
That's all. So that all the facts are clear. I have a list here, 39 beneficiaries out of this list of 88.
Which list is this?
That's my list.
You know,
Stimulate.
you don't work at Get Fund.
So it means I've researched Get Fund, Audit Service, Ministry of Education, and all that. That's what it means.
And you have received figures that are different from the figures the auditor dealt with.
You are talking to an investigative journalist.
Okay. How are you able to come to the conclusion that the figures given to you are the same figures that the auditor was presented with?
You see, these things are
there
very
were
simple.
two levels that the auditee was supposed to respond, and they responded at those two levels. Why didn't they correct those? And why is that not part of the report?
How are the monies paid?
Bank transfers.
Thank you. So there's enough record at the appropriate places, the banks, all those places, to check. And I say, you are talking to me. I've done my search. Not that I'm perfect. Not that I've never made mistakes before. I have, sometimes very grave ones, which I've come back to retract and apologize for. So I'm human. But I'm saying that I've done these checks. We don't have time. I would have given you more examples. And some, the discrepancy or disparity.
It's too great.
It's too huge.
It's huge, yeah.
And that worries me. And that's what I mean by, well, no audit report is sacrosanct.
Right.
And that's why it's subject to judicial matters. For instance, let me finish this one. The Auditor General intends to issue surcharges and disallowances. Those things must have a foundation, proper foundation. If they are challenged based on such things, you may lose the case in court.
Lose it. You lose it.
You lose the case in court when material, discrepancies of this nature are brought up.
So my question again is, we're going for a quick break. My question again is, why are the people now supplying us alternative facts? Why did they not react in the manner they are reacting now during the two levels of conferences before the audit concluded?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. I'm not a spokesperson for any of them.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason why I thought Public Accounts Committee would have cured a lot of the mischief and enlightened us.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this is a vibrant democracy. Somebody intercepts the document, he throws it out there, we all discuss.
Okay.
His social media with all its positive nature, also very negative ones are in there. It's distorted, misrepresented, and everything. But I say, I've said what I've said here in good faith. Look, I'm in full support of the Auditor General and the Audit Service as a matter of principle. But that doesn't mean that when I'm clear in my mind that there's something wrong with a product of his work, he shouldn't be subjected to criticism.
Now let me take my break. And of course, we here at NewsFile, my production reliably informed me, they have tried in the course of the week, and they got the administrator of the Get Fund. He agreed to speak, to answer questions that I just posed one to Kokobako, and he agreed to speak. But this morning they have called him several times. He's not picking his call. The contact was also made to the Auditor General's office, but they declined to comment any further. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back to ask the questions, including why 40% of the beneficiaries never presented an admission letter. 79% of beneficiaries were funded without showing proof they were Ghanaians. How does Get Fund explain this gross neglect? Should our focus be on the errors that purportedly have been made by the Auditor General or the revelations that are uncontested?
Both.